And we're back. Did you miss me? Of course you did. Remember from that last video, the thing we kept folded? We're going to unfold it today. So we're reading Almost Odis by me, Dusty Thompson. Buy your copy on Amazon. I'm not telling you again. If you're following along, we're on page 287, blog dated Sunday, January 5th, 2014. Are jumper cables made of licorice? Well, black licorice tastes like they're made of something like jumper cables. That's nasty. I don't know who eats that mess. I realized expecting someone wearing cranberry chinos and a paisley button-down baking brie en croûte to resolve your automotive dilemma is typically far-fetched, but if you know me, you know I've got plenty of tricks up my color-coordinated sleeve. I can drive a standing on the column, y'all, in a bean truck. True story. I'm standing in the kitchen by the oven waiting for my brie to finish so I can drizzle raspberry preserves in preparation for the return of Downton Abbey. A fabulous British TV show is an excuse for fancy snacks, n'est-ce pas? I was removing them from the oven when my father walks in and at the end of a string of profanity asks if Greg was in town. Greg, as you may remember, is one of the few of my friends and or employees to rate a passing grade from my father. Granted, the dad likes most of my friends, but prefers Greg based mostly on the fact that Greg looks as if he's in a Hell's Angel on his way to court when he's dressed for work. Dustin's corner of the federal government is a well-dressed corner, people. I'm making the world more attractive one pocket square at a time. True story. He's one of the nicest people I know, but his size and girth are intimidating to say the least. When I ask why, I am met with an exasperated, "Just find out if he's busy." When I insist on knowing the reason to bother someone on a Sunday, the dad says, "My truck won't crank, the battery's dead." My response, "Well, I can fix that," was met with a look similar to the one Lulu, the dog, has when she sees herself in the mirror. Confusion followed by amusement. I ignored the look and stated, "Give me a minute to drizzle the preserves and I'll get your jumper cables." He stared at me and asked what brie is. My response was, "Fancy cheese you don't like, so put it down," as he tried to pretend he hadn't just burned his fingers trying to grab a piece before I could stop him. I realize you may be skeptical of someone who owns as many pairs of colored chinos as I would have. At their disposal, the skills or tools to perform such a task. However, as we have discussed previously, I'm a unique animal, one who didn't necessarily enjoy the absorption or demonstration of said knowledge. I didn't want to learn how to jump off a car, but I learned how. A life spent in the boonies with cars of questionable dependability will very quickly familiarize you with the information on how to jump off a car, how to push the standard shift truck down a hill to get it going, how to convince someone Bondo and Primer are actual color options, and prayer can sometimes work as an alternative fuel. Once he saw I wasn't kidding about the jumper cables or the brie, he followed me outside and I proceeded to take control of the situation, gathering the necessary tools and assigning tasks. Like Vanilla Ice said, "Give me a problem, yo, I'll solve it." Yes, I am more than slightly embarrassed how quickly that reference came tip-tap typing out of my fingers, and just now out of my mouth. Let's just pretend that it didn't happen, shall we, and get back to the issue at hand. Focus, y'all. Wasn't a good song, though. When I told him to stop trying to push his truck out of the garage until I moved my car, he groused, "This is exactly why I wanted Greg. You're too bossy." I replied, "I'm trying to fix this with the least amount of dirt and sweat. You're decrepit and I'm overdressed. Humor the preppy, okay?" Once we situated the vehicles, excavated the jumper cables from the deep recesses of his king cab, along with the contraband Mountain Dew bottles and Wendy's wrappers, which earned him a condescending headshake from me and my mother in heaven, I feel sure. It looks like this. Yeah. We hooked up the cables, he cranked his truck, and it awoke from its slumber. I did a small victory dance in my head. As he prepared to move his truck back into the garage, I suggested he go ahead and get gas tonight so the battery would have time to get a little workout and he wouldn't have to fight traffic in the morning. He is scheduled to blatantly lie to several medical professionals tomorrow about his diet, glucose readings, and bowel movements. In layman's terms, he is going to the doctor. When he returned from getting gas, he walked past me to his bedroom. I followed him and said, "You're welcome." He laughed and said, "For what?" "I fixed your truck, old man, while wearing chocolate suede wingtips." "You think you're something else, don't you?" Yes, I do. I still think I'm something else, just in case you didn't know. You probably knew. "And why can't you just say brown instead of chocolate?" Chocolate is more descriptive, like saying raspberry instead of pink, or eggnog instead of winter white. "I know you think you're fancy, but sounds like to me you're just hungry." Touche, Pater, touche. I knew he was going to lie to the doctor, so I invited myself to come along. I decided to situate myself on his left, just a little bit behind him, since he cannot fully turn his head in either direction, so he wouldn't be able to see me shake or nod my head, signifying whether he was telling the truth. His medical team began to ask questions as follow-ups to his most recent surgery. The doctor said, "Mr. Thompson, did you clean your wound like we discussed?" The dad said, "Yeah." I shook my head. The doctor said, "Are you sure, Mr. Thompson? It was supposed to be soaked in the solution for 10 minutes per day for a week." "I know. I did it." I shook my head again. The dad, trying to turn his head to see me, said, "What are you doing back there?" I replied, "Nothing, but I don't remember you soaking your wound every day for 10 minutes. You did it once for about an hour. At least that's what you told me." "Yep, 60 minutes. "Mr. Thompson, that is the reason it's not working. You can't add all the times together. You have to do it for 10 minutes each day for the treatment to work." The dad said, 10 minutes times 6 is 60 minutes. What's the difference?" When the dad said, "Oh, I see. Y'all ganging up on me," everyone wordlessly looked at him. He continued, "You need to get out of my face. You ain't talking down to me." He stood up and turned to me and said, "You can go on back to work. I don't need you in here with me. I think I know what I'd do at home more than you do." I protested, "But you aren't telling them the truth, Dad. It's the reason you aren't healing like you should. You need to listen to them." He looked at me and said, "If you're not going to leave, I am." And he walked out the door. I couldn't do anything but walk out behind him after thanking his medical team and apologizing for what had just happened. The wound didn't get any better. I'm sure you're unsurprised to hear. And we'll leave it there and see you next time. Thanks.